and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Rusty, and this is Found Footage Week. This is my channel where I talk about and spotlight my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And welcome to day 4 of Found Footage Week. Yes, and today's spotlight is on a little movie from 2014 called As Above, So Below. This is one of my favorite found footage movies because it's so fucked up. It is so fucked up. A lot to think about in this movie. Now, as I said, As Above, So Below was released in 2014. It was directed by Erick Dowdle. It was written by Erick and Drew Dowdle. And it stars Perdita, Ben Feldman, and Edwin Hodge. Yes, it was. For real. So, this movie opens with an introduction to our main character, Scarlett. She is a professor at an archaeological, at school, a professor of archaeology at uni in London. And she is in disguise. She has infiltrated Iran looking for a artifact that she believes is in a cave system that they are about to destroy. She knows that if she is caught, she will be those kinds of death that those people like over there, right? She will be buried to her head. Her body will be buried up to her neck in sand, and they will drop a wall on her. Yeah. Nice place. So, she's there to try to find this artifact. So she goes down into this cave system. It's fixing to be destroyed. They're running against the 10, 9, 8, 7, the countdown. And she manages to find the wall that she had been told about. She can sense through the text that something else is going on. So she ends up busting through it. And there she finds this big, beautiful cow type artifact. And the guy that's with her, he's like, no, it's fixing to blow up, we got to go. So she tells him to leave because she knows she cannot leave without videoing all of the text on this artifact. So she does, and then she manages to just get out in the nick of time, and she films the inscriptions and manages to get out alive. Now we sort of flash forward to the current time, where she is being interviewed in France. She's in France, and she's being interviewed, and she's talking about the Philosopher's Stone. That was her dad's obsession, was the Philosopher's Stone. She is an expert in alchemy, like her dad was, and history and archaeology. So she actually believes all this stuff. And the artifact that she had found was called the Rose Key. And it's sort of like, to be able to, the one guy who knew where the Philosopher's Stone was, he died. And there's inscriptions on his tombstone, which is in a museum, that she believes the Rose Key can now unlock what it was from this dead language. So she takes this guy and they go and hunt for her friend George. She manages to find him. He don't want nothing to do with her because she can get your ass in trouble. Just remember the Iran stuff you just saw. So he doesn't really want anything to do with her, but she informs him that she found the rose key and that she has it on video. And if he can, because he can translate Arabic, so he wasn't going to help her at first until she tells him that. Then he agrees to take a look and to do it, but that's all he's willing to do. So he agrees, and we are introduced to Benji. Now, Benji is the cameraman that you've been seeing through this interview, or he's back there anyway. You hear him talking. So Benji is the cameraman who is filming this documentary as she explains to George about her search and her life and her activities. So through the translation, they decide to go down through the catacombs after they go to the museum. She finds a secret message on the back of the tombstone. And they believe that the location of the Philosopher's Stone is in a certain place in the catacombs under Paris. And so they need to get exactly 741 feet down to look for the stone. And when they explain all of that to you, because, of course I'm skipping all of that, but as she explains all of this to you, she does it very well. The writers of the movie and her as an actress, it's not very confusing at all. It makes sense, and they sort of do it in front of you. As they learn it, you learn it, and you see how this all fits together. So it's really easy. It seems like it would be complicated, but it's not. You really can follow along with all of this scientific talk. So they decide to go down there. While they were what were they doing? She was getting a feel for the catacombs, so she was on a tour. While she was there, she said out loud that she needed someone to guide her in the catacombs. And this random stranger told her, hey, there's a guy named Papillon who can do it. He can get you to the secret places. So she ends up meeting him at a club and convinces him to help her get into the catacombs by telling him that there's a room full of treasure and he can have half of it. So he agrees to go. They take him. Now, this whole time, George is like, I am not going. I translated this shit for you. I will wait at the entrance, but I am not going because, it's illegal to go down there. So Papillon knows a way to get into the catacombs. The police also know he knows a way because he's notorious for this kind of shit. So right as they're at the entrance and he's saying this is where we enter the catacombs, a cop comes out of nowhere and attacks Papillon. They all, including George, end up jumping in that hole to get away from the police. And now George is along for the ride, and he never wanted to be. Because you can't go back up through that hole, right? Because the cops are waiting for you, which in my place, I'd just take jail time. Especially after I see what kind of shit goes on, I'd have just took the jail time. Okay? And considering how many people are left after this little adventure, they should have just took the jail time. So, what could they get me for? Attempting to go into the catacombs? I've never thought about that. If I had stopped and said, never mind, I'm going back up that hole and just let the cops have me, what are they going to charge me with? Entering a hole that would eventually lead me to the catacombs? I guess trespassing? I'll take a trespassing charge compared to what happens. So, he gets them down there. Now, this movie is particularly difficult to transcribe. You know what I'm saying? I had how do you explain this stuff? This movie is very, very visual, right? So I will persevere. We will get this done. So they're arguing like, I don't want to go this way. I want to go that way. No, you can't go that way because that's the evil way. And, so it's all really interesting stuff. They end up, and I am claustrophobic, so you can fuck me ever going down to any kind of shit like this. But they get down there and they go this way, but then that way leads to nothing. They end up having to, it's almost as though they were magically in a circle, and it's almost like something was making them go the evil way. So they get in, they have to go that way down that corridor where they find a lot of weird shit. The bad tunnel, there's a phone ringing. They find a big piano just like George and his little brother who drowned when he was a kid. They find a piano that was just like the one they had, and it even has the same key messed up. Scarlett ends up finding the phone and answering it, only to have some creepy voice, calling her by name, telling her she shouldn't have came down there and she shouldn't be sticking her nose where she shouldn't be, stuff like that. So then they run across the friend that Papillon had told them about, who had, after years of knowing better than to go down the evil tunnel, couldn't resist anymore and did, and he's not been seen for years. Yet here he is standing in front of them. They start trying, following him. They end up at a deep well. They splunk down it. Ben gets rope burns on his hands. There's this weird section where the audio is like they're underwater, and George sees what seems to be his little brother in a corner. So we're kind of getting the feel that something supernatural is going on down here. They end up running into a dead end, but find the symbol, and it turns out to be a Ptolemaic hinge. Now, a Ptolemaic hinge is like a puzzle. It's sort of like the Egyptian version of a padlock. It's the way they would booby trap entrances to their tombs and everything. And that is with symbols, which are basically puzzles. You have to know exactly which rock to take out of which section of which wall to get a secret door to come open. And it's a real thing. It's called a Ptolemaic hinge. And if you pick the right one, the door will open and you can enter the tomb. If you pick the wrong one, you're fucked and the roof will collapse and kill you. So it's sort of like a trap to keep people from robbing Egyptian tombs. So it was cool to learn about that kind of stuff. They find a preserved crusader, with the big cross, crusader, knights of the realm type thing. And yet he's perfectly preserved. Like, he's got to at least be 700 years old. They end up finding their way through these pretty scary and weird, traps and turns and corners. They do find this treasure room, and she does find the Philosopher's Stone. And, of course, Papillon and Susie and Zed, they're all over there, going after the treasure. When Scarlett realizes that, she's like, no, that would be the trap, because this is the real treasure. That's just to get fakes to go after it, and it's too late. The wall collapses. It hurts them all. She actually uses shavings from the Philosopher's Stone to heal the arm that was all gashed up by Susie, right? So you're like, well, this shit must work. So they can't find a way out because the roof is collapsed. They find a tunnel on the floor. They go down it. It ends up in a dead end with an inscription that labels it as the gates of hell. So they have no choice but to go down it. They come into a new room, but it's the opposite. It's just like the room that they left, where she got the Philosopher's Stone, but things are reversed. So that started to be my first hint that it was like mirror images of each other, these rooms. So Pap's friend shows up again. Now, he was supposedly killed under that bunch of fallen roof, but there he is again in this room, and he ends up like killing Susie really ugly, like bashing her skull in. They try the Philosopher's Stone, but it won't work. It won't work because she's already dead. It's like, well, wouldn't the Philosopher's Stone, resurrect? No, it can't resurrect. Okay, all right, well, all right. So this is about the time that George and them realize, George and Scarlett, they realize that we keep going like in the same loop of rooms, mirror images, upside down, whatever, but it's the same loop. Go through the well, find this, go into the tunnel, find the treasure room, find the hole, get through it, and it's just all a big giant circle, So they go down the well again like they had done before, and then this apparition like kills. There's a little moth in here. That's what I get for having the window open at 2:00 in the morning. But so they end up, this apparition like kills. Well, it doesn't kill him. Well, it does. It throws him down the well. So that was a pretty stunning scene because they're all at the bottom, and then here comes Ben's body splat right by them. This is a very, very deep well. So, the apparition kills Ben when he throws him down the well. George then has the vision of his little brother, and this is when they finally all realize for sure that almost everything going on in here is like psychic hallucinations. And the next room that they go into after they realize that is finally a different room, but it's got a burning car in it. And sitting in the back seat of this burning car is a teenage boy. And he's like on fire, but Papillon has this big burn on his arm. And they had asked about it earlier, his friends Susie and Zed, like, what happened to his arm, that scar? I think we know now. So Papillon starts screaming, it wasn't my fault, it wasn't my fault. And that boy comes out that burning car and tries to get him. They start like holding him back, Papillon, but it's like there's a force pulling Papillon, and it like rips him out of their arms, and he goes into the car, which then implodes, goes into the dirt, and there's nothing left but Papillon's naked legs sticking up out of the ground. And they try to get him out, but they can't. All this other weird shit starts going on, and they have to run. That was a good scene. That scene also scared the shit out of me. So, who do we have left? We have nobody left but Scarlett, George, and Zed are the only ones left. So they're running through the catacombs. There's these stone demons that get after them. They rip out George's throat, or they bite it pretty bad, but as long as someone, keeps pressure on it, it's fine. She tries to use the stone, but the stone doesn't work. It's not healing it. She doesn't understand why, because she thought that it healed that Scarlet girl, but it's not doing. So she starts thinking that something has changed and she doesn't have the right stone. So she leaves Zed to watch him and keep pressure on his neck while she goes back. She goes back and all kind of hallucinations and shit happen to her. She manages to get back to the room, and she even like runs into her dad, whom she makes peace with. And then she gets back to the room and she puts that stone back in its place, and she's reading the inscriptions, and she realizes that the stone is right here in the middle. And she's trying to get it out and doesn't realize why she can't get it out. So she's like wiping everything off of it, and it turns out that it's a big silver mirror. And she's looking in it, and it's a reflection of her own face. And the inscriptions are saying, "This is the Philosopher's Stone." And that's when it hits her that, that's when it hits her that the secret is self-realization. The secret of the Philosopher's Stone is just that, to know the secret. The secret is you make the world what you want it to be. And if you know that and believe that and have that power, the secret of the stone is in each of us, and that is that you must make peace with your inner demons and see the world as you want it to be, and it shall be. So she tells the other two, she's like, this is the secret. We have found the secret. We know the truth. We have to jump down this well knowing that it will take us back home. As above, so below. As we see the world, so shall it be. So they're like, she's like, if you trust me, if you believe we have found this secret, whoever hits the bottom is going to be okay, and we're going to be back home. So they jump, a leap of faith. They jump, and they end up landing on the bottom. It's a nice thump, but they're okay, and they stand up, and they're like, oh my God, and then they see a manhole cover right over there. And it's filmed really cool, because I was like going, they're upside down, aren't they? There's a manhole cover on the floor, because, they're trying to lift it up. And I'm like, no, I think you need to push on it, because you're upside down. And so they finally get that same idea, and they start pushing on it. They finally push it up and move it over, and they look down, and they're looking at the sky, which is cool. And they climb through it, and they're back, and the camera flips back the right way, and they're standing on the street. They're back on the street. And they hug each other, and that Zed boy, he's just like, okay. And he just like turns and walks on, and I'm like, that motherfucker will never leave the house again. That motherfucker will never go down a hole. That motherfucker will move to the other side of the planet, because he was done. You could just tell that was the last adventure he's ever going to have. So, Scarlett and George hug each other. So those are the only three that made it out alive and knowing the secret. And the movie then ends with the last clip from the original interview that they were doing at the beginning of the movie. And that's where, he asked her, so, what are you in all of this for? And she says, well, that's where a lot of people get it wrong. They think that you're in this for money or fame or treasure. And I'm not. I'm just in this for the truth. So she had found the truth, and it ended with her saying, I'm just in this for the truth. And she did. So there you go. Now, I wrote, this movie is basically Tomb Raider meets Hellraiser, and that's the truth. I mean, this movie, There's like so many times during this movie I'm like, I keep expecting Laura Croft to come out from the side of the corner and go, it's that button and that brick right there. You know? It definitely had a Tomb Raider film feel to it, but at the same time, these people were in some serious Hellraiser atmosphere, right? I mean, it really is Tomb Raider meets Hellraiser, is what this movie is. So it was very cool. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I absolutely adore this movie. It's one of my favorite found footage movies ever. And yeah, that's it for day 4. For day 4 of Found Footage Week. I'm so glad that you could join me if you take the time. Have you seen this? Do you like this? Do you know anything about it? Do you know the secret of the Philosopher's Stone? Would you have to go 741 feet into Hellraiser territory in the catacombs of Paris to find out? Why? Just listen to her. She can tell you. So, yes. Always remember, never forget, you're a very, very special person. Even if you don't know the secret of the Philosopher's Stone, you are a very special person. Don't let anyone ever tell you different. And I do appreciate anyone who takes the time to listen to me babble and spotlight my favorite movies. If you know anything about this or have any opinions, feel free to let me know. Love you, miss you, bye-bye, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Bye. I'll get the hell out of here.